Atheists, the mysterious, morally questionable unicorns of society, wandering the earth with their dark hearts, sinister logic, and cold, unfeeling glares, just waiting to destroy your Christmas. Or at least that's what some people apparently think. But before we whip out our sarcasm cannon and go full myth-squashing mode, let's ask the real question. Why do so many otherwise intelligent people believe atheists are morally bankrupt, joyless rebels? Could it be a total lack of understanding mixed with a generous helping of cultural stereotypes? Let's dive in. For myth number 1, atheists lack morals or ethics. Yes, the old favorite. Because clearly, if someone doesn't believe in a divine rule book handed down by an all-seeing sky manager, they must be out there organizing underground kitten punting tournaments. Obviously. Because nothing says immoral like not checking in with a higher power before deciding not to rob a liquor store. Spoiler alert. That's not how it works. Not even close. See, morality isn't some exclusive club with a members-only sign slapped on it by religion. You don't need a commandment etched in stone to know that stabbing your neighbor is a no-no. Many atheists base their ethics on empathy, what a concept, or on secular humanist principles that focus on human well-being, justice, and mutual respect. Others lean on philosophical frameworks like consequentialism or virtue ethics, and some, they just grew up learning that being a jerk makes life worse for everyone. Here's the twist. When you do something good without expecting divine brownie points or fearing cosmic punishment, it might actually mean you're just a decent person. Shocking, I know. Turns out atheists don't need eternal surveillance to avoid kicking puppies or jaywalking. And now, for myth number 2. Atheism is a rebellion against God. Yes, this one's a classic, straight from the drama department of Misunderstood Concepts 101. It imagines atheists as emotionally wounded teenagers, slamming the door on divinity, blasting heavy metal, and screaming, "You can't tell me what to do, God!" as if disbelief is just some edgy protest phase. But here's a wild concept. What if atheists simply don't believe there's anyone to rebel against? Mind blown, right? Most atheists aren't shaking their fists at the sky or nursing some cosmic grudge. They're not emotionally invested in disproving a deity any more than you're passionately crusading against leprechauns. They just don't see sufficient evidence for a divine being and have quietly opted out of the faith-based subscription service. No drama, no rebellion, no burning altars in their backyard while chanting Radiohead lyrics backwards. It's like saying someone who doesn't believe in astrology is rebelling against Mercury retrograde. No, they just don't think planetary positions determine whether your ex texts you back. Same vibe. The rebellion myth is often a projection, a way for believers to interpret disbelief in personal terms, as if rejecting a belief is automatically an attack on them or their worldview. But for most atheists, it's not about rejection, it's about disinterest. It's not a vendetta. It's just not relevant to how they live their lives. And let's be real. If you are actually rebelling against something, that means you kind of think it's real, right? You can't rebel against something you think is fictional. You can't declare war on Narnia. Well, you can, but you'll be in therapy by Thursday. So the next time someone claims atheism is a spiritual temper tantrum, maybe gently remind them it's not rebellion, it's just a no thank you. Moving on to myth number 3. Atheists are nihilists or find life meaningless. The old life without God must be an endless void of despair trope. Because clearly, if you're not living for eternal reward points in heaven, you must be lying face down on the floor whispering, "What's the point?" between sobs and spoonfuls of existential dread ice cream. But here's the kicker. Atheists aren't all wandering around like characters from a black and white European film, sipping black coffee in the rain while monologuing about the futility of existence. Shocking, I know. In reality, most atheists find meaning in things like life, that thing we're all doing right now. Meaning doesn't have to be handed down from a celestial CEO. It can be created through relationships, passions, accomplishments, curiosity, or simply enjoying a really good taco. Atheists often build their sense of purpose from family, friendships, love, learning, helping others, art, music, nature, science, and maybe even a bit of dark humor. These aren't consolation prizes. They're deeply fulfilling experiences. And let's be honest, if you need the threat of eternal consequences just to enjoy your one shot at existence, maybe the issue isn't atheism, it's your user manual for life. The idea that life is meaningless without a deity is like saying a movie is only worth watching if there's a sequel. Newsflash. Lots of people love standalones. And for many atheists, the fact that life isn't eternal is precisely what gives it urgency and depth. No infinite do-overs, no celestial participation trophies, just one wild, precious chance to leave things better than you found them. And let's not forget, a huge number of atheists are out there changing the world. fighting for social justice, curing diseases, creating jaw-dropping art, mentoring kids, protecting the environment, all because they care about humanity, not because they're afraid of a divine demerit system. So no, atheism doesn't automatically come with a free side of nihilism. You can lack belief in a God and believe deeply in love, beauty, and purpose. The idea that meaning can only come from a higher power is like insisting you need to believe in Christmas to enjoy giving gifts. The joy is real, even without the jingle bells. Next up, myth number 4, atheism is a religion. Ah yes, the classic, you don't believe in God, so that's just another belief maneuver. It's like saying not playing tennis is a sport. Atheism isn't a belief system. It's literally just not believing in deities. No sacred texts, no choir practice, and definitely no holy snack wafers. Sure, some atheists gather for community or activism, but so do comic book fans. That doesn't make Marvel a religion, though some folks do pray to Stan Lee. Calling atheism a religion is just an easy way to pretend it fits neatly into the same category as organized faiths. But it's not replacing religion with new dogma. It's just opting out. Like unsubscribing from a newsletter you never signed up for. And no, we still don't have holidays unless you count finally sleeping in on Sunday. Let's spice it up with myth number 5. Atheists hate God. Ah yes, the ultimate paradox, hating something you don't believe exists. That's like saying you're angry at the Loch Ness Monster for ghosting you after one magical evening. Or blaming Bigfoot for not showing up to your kid's soccer game. It's not just wrong, it's peak logic gymnastics. Here's the deal. Most atheists don't hate God for the same reason you don't hate Zeus, Thor, or the flying spaghetti monster. They just don't think any of them are real. This myth usually comes from projecting emotional motives onto disbelief. People assume atheists must resent a God, as if the only way someone could reject a belief is if they were hurt by it. But atheism isn't born out of anger, it's usually born out of questioning, exploring, and shocker thinking. Sure, there are some atheists who are critical of religion, especially when it's used to justify harm or control. But that's not hating God. That's critiquing institutions, not supernatural beings. So let's stop accusing atheists of holding a grudge against a being they view as fictional. You don't hate Voldemort. You just don't think he's real. Same energy. Now, myth number 6. Atheists want to convert you to atheism. Because nothing screams wild Saturday night like knocking on strangers' doors with pamphlets that say, there is no God, and here's why you should also stop believing and join us in awkward silence. Sounds like a blast, right? Let's be real. Most atheists aren't out here forming secret missionary squads for disbelief. There's no Book of Not God, no Convert 5 Believers and get a free Blender reward program. The vast majority aren't trying to convert anyone. They just want people to have the freedom to believe or not believe without pressure, dogma, or guilt tripping. What atheists do often push for is freedom of thought. That radical idea that people should question things, examine evidence, and choose beliefs based on reason rather than fear or tradition. Shocking, I know. They're usually more concerned with making sure beliefs aren't being forced on others. Like your kid getting preached to in biology class, or laws being written based on one group's theology. Of course, some atheists enjoy debate, some even write books or host podcasts. But that's not conversion, that's conversation. You're allowed to share ideas. That's kind of the whole point of living in a society where you don't get burned at the stake for disagreeing. And honestly, if someone does want you to consider atheism, they're probably not going to start by screaming at you about fairy tales and sky wizards. They're more likely to say, hey, have you ever thought about this? And then offer a TED Talk recommendation. Not exactly the stuff of cult thrillers. So no, atheists aren't coming to steal your faith in the dead of night. Most would rather you believe whatever you want, as long as you're not using it to control others or justify bad behavior. That's not conversion. That's basic respect. Revolutionary, right? Let's roll into myth number 7. There's no pope or leader, so they must be chaotic. Ah yes, the assumption that without a divine CEO or weekly memos from a spiritual middle manager, everything must instantly descend into pandemonium. Because clearly the only way humans can behave is if someone in a big hat tells them what to do. But here's the thing, atheism isn't a team sport. It's not a club with membership dues and matching jackets, although now I kind of want that. It's simply a lack of belief in gods. That's it. No pope, no bishops, no hotline to a head office. And somehow, despite the terrifying absence of a hierarchy, atheists still manage to tie their shoes, pay taxes, and occasionally return shopping carts. Atheists navigate life using critical thinking, empathy, and the wild idea that we can cooperate without being told to by a higher power. Radical, right? The they must be chaotic myth also weirdly implies that atheists are failing at being something they never claimed to be in the first place. It's like complaining that cats aren't very good at being dogs. You can't get excommunicated from atheism. You can't even get voted out. It's less chaotic and more, no one's in charge because no one needs to be. So yes, atheists might be wearing bathrobes and drinking coffee on a Sunday morning instead of attending mass, but that's not chaos. That's just freedom, with a side of waffles. Brace yourself for myth number 8. Atheists are more prone to immoral behavior. Ah, the old no God, no rules panic button. This myth gets tossed around so often, it should come with frequent flyer miles. The idea is that without belief in a divine hall monitor, atheists must be one bad mood away from setting a building on fire or stealing candy from orphans. Because clearly, morality can only come from a cosmic surveillance system. But let's check the receipts. Actual crime statistics don't show atheists running amok in the streets, cackling as they violate every moral code imaginable. In fact, atheists are underrepresented in prison populations compared to their numbers in the general population. And unless there's a secret atheist prison we don't know about, where they only serve vegan chili and debate philosophy, that kind of destroys the argument. The truth is, there's zero credible evidence linking atheism to increased criminality or unethical behavior. What does correlate with morality? Stuff like education levels, economic opportunity, mental health support, and, brace yourself, empathy. You know, regular human decency. Turns out, not being a jerk doesn't require divine permission. The belief that people will instantly turn into criminals without a god peering over their shoulder is more of a confession about your worldview than anyone else's. Most atheists are moral for the same reason most religious people are. They were raised with a conscience, understand cause and effect, and realize that kindness, fairness, and honesty make society better. So no, atheists aren't walking morality grenades. They're just people. Some good, some bad, most somewhere in between. Just like every other group of humans on the planet. Onward to myth number 9. Atheism is a phase or based on trauma. Ah yes, because clearly the only reason someone could possibly stop believing in an all-powerful being is due to a tragic backstory. Maybe they were struck by lightning during Sunday school, or maybe their prayer for a pony never came true. Trauma, obviously. Or the ever-popular, they just want to sin, as if disbelief is just a loophole to eat bacon and skip confession. Here's a thought. Maybe, just maybe, some atheists didn't go through a meltdown. Maybe they just started asking questions. You know, questions like, does this make sense? Or why does an all-knowing being need money? Or why do omnipotent plans require fundraisers? Many atheists arrive at their worldview through reading, thinking, and engaging with science, philosophy, or history. Not because of personal pain, but because curiosity got the better of them. Some deconverted over years of careful reflection, others in one, wait a minute, moment after reading something by Carl Sagan or Bertrand Russell. No lightning bolts required. Now let's be fair. Some atheists do come from traumatic religious backgrounds, and their disbelief might be wrapped up in that experience. But that doesn't invalidate their views, any more than someone becoming religious after a life crisis invalidates their faith. Personal journeys are complex. We're all shaped by our experiences, traumatic, transformative, or totally mundane. Calling atheism a phase is also wildly patronizing. It's like telling a 40-year-old vegan they're just going through a tofu thing. For many atheists, disbelief is a permanent, well-considered worldview, not a rebellious gap year from Sunday school. So no, atheism isn't a temporary glitch caused by unresolved daddy issues or a phase someone will grow out of once they settle down and start baking casseroles. For most, it's just the conclusion they've reached after thinking things through. And finally, myth number 10. Atheists deny all possibility of the supernatural. Not quite, my friend. This myth assumes that atheism is just skepticism turned up to 11, rejecting not only gods, but everything remotely weird, mysterious, or unexplained. As if every atheist spends their nights wearing a lab coat, aggressively disproving ghosts with a flashlight and a calculator. But here's the truth. Atheism is specifically about not believing in gods. That's it. It doesn't automatically come with a subscription to Skeptic Monthly or a firm no to every other spooky thing out there. Some atheists are hardcore skeptics, yes. They want double-blind studies, peer-reviewed journals, and no nonsense. Others, they're more like, okay, I don't believe in gods, but UFOs? Let's talk. They just don't tie those experiences to a divine being or sacred doctrine. And then there are atheists who lean towards spirituality in a non-theistic way, like meditation, mindfulness, or feeling a connection to nature, art, or other humans. So no, atheism doesn't automatically mean denial of everything mysterious. It just means not buying the God thing. Beyond that, You'll find a full spectrum, from full-blown materialist skeptics to, okay, but that haunted doll in the attic definitely moved types. So what have we learned today? That atheists aren't evil masterminds bent on destroying society. They're not heartless robots or agents of chaos. They're your neighbors, your coworkers, your baristas, maybe even your grandma. And if so, she's probably the coolest grandma ever. And here's the advice part. Next time you hear one of these myths casually dropped in conversation, maybe, just maybe, say, hey, you know that's not actually true, right? Or better yet, send them this video and watch their face as the myths implode one by one. So if you enjoyed seeing tired cliches get wrecked harder than your New Year's resolutions, hit that like button like it owes you money, subscribe to the Debunkers, and drop a comment below. Let us know which myth blew your mind or which one you've heard too many times at awkward family dinners. And hey, whether you believe in a god, many gods, or none at all, don't be a jerk. That's the real moral of the story. Until next time.